So now we're going to get into the math part of it. And this first slide is just all of the formulas that you'll need to find volume. So you already know, you just took a test on area of a rectangle, area of a triangle, and area of a circle. And those all are going to be the same, and they're going to be given to you. Now the volume formula for a prism or a cylinder, okay, is V equals B times H. Now B and H do mean base and height, but it's not the same way that it works in triangles. Notice that it's a capital B. Okay, so that capital B means the area of one of the bases. So if it's a triangular prism, you'll find the area of the triangle. If it's a cylinder, you'll find the area of a circle. If it's a rectangular prism, like a box, then you'll find the area of a rectangle. So this capital B is going to be the area of one of the bases, just one of the bases, not both of them. And then H is the distance between those two bases. So if it's a cylinder that's standing up, then that's going to be the distance between the two cylinders up and down. If it's a cylinder lying on its side, then it would be the distance left and right. So H is the distance between the two bases. Now I said in the previous video that volume is always in units cubed, and that is still true. So don't forget, your units are always going to be cubed here. And just as an idea, just so you would know, usually when you think of volume, you're thinking in liters, like a 2-liter bottle of pop, or you would be thinking of gallons, like a gallon of milk. Those would be usually what you're thinking of. Now here we're going to be using cubic centimeters and cubic inches, and you might get lost in all that. So I just wanted to let you know that 1,000 cubic centimeters is equal to 1 liter. So that means if you had a box that was 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, that box would hold a liter of liquid. Now, of course, metric is always easier than the English, but 231 cubic inches is equal to 1 gallon. So you could think about it the same way. If you get an answer that's like 300 cubic inches, then it's going to be a little bit more than a gallon would be. So just keep those in mind. And you don't have to memorize those. I just wanted to let you know what they were. So, finding the volume of a rectangular prism. Now, a rectangular prism is just a box. Now, these are going to be a little bit simpler than finding the area of a triangular prism, which we'll get to, or a cylinder. And the reason why is because since everything is rectangles, you can choose your bases. You can pick whatever you want. So let's say your base is going to be the bottom and the top. Let's say those are going to be my bases. So then capital B is going to be length times width. So those bases are 4 by 6. So those are 24 square centimeters. That's the area of my bases. So the height, remember the height is the distance between them. So the height is going to be 10 centimeters because that's the distance here between the bottom and the top. So my volume is just going to be capital B times H. So 24 times 10 is going to be 240 cubic centimeters. Now, I could have chosen the left and the right to be my bases. I could have chosen this and this to be the bases, and then this would be the distance between them. Or I could have chosen the front and the back to be my bases, and that would be the distance between them. When you end up doing these, and if I would go through and do this all 3 times, you're going to get 240 for each one. But if you are dealing with a rectangular prism, volume is always length times width times height. So you could just say 6 times 4 times 10. Length, width, height. And it doesn't matter which one you call length times width times height. You're always going to get your volume. So let's try a triangular prism. Now with the triangular prism, we don't have a choice as to what our bases are. Our bases are going to be our triangles. So there's one base right there, and here's my other base right here. Those are my bases. So I need to find the area of one of those triangles, and this is what you did on the last test. Base is 1/2, or capital B, that's your base of your prism, is 1/2 base times height. So in this triangle, your base would be 8, your height would be 9. So 1/2, 8 times 9 is going to be 36. Now the height, remember the height is the distance between the two. So here's my height, the distance between the two triangles is going to be 16. So now my volume is just going to be those multiplied together. 36 times 16, capital B times H, is going to be 576 cubic meters. So capital B, remember volume is always capital B times H. And capital B is the area of a base. Now when we get to cylinders, same exact thing. My bases are going to be my two circles. So there's one base, and this base you can't really see, but it would be right there. So now, my base is a circle, pi r squared. Now remember, r is radius, so if my diameter is 6, that means that my radius is going to be 3. So it'll be pi times 3 squared. And again, you can use calculator pi or 3.14. I used calculator pi, so it ends up being 28.2743. And I'm going to keep all those decimal places for right now. I'll round it when we're done. And then remember, your height is the distance between those two circles, so that's going to be 12. So volume is going to be that 28.2743 times 12. So when I round it, that's 339.3 cubic feet. And again, if you're a little bit off because you used 3.14 instead of calculator pi, that's okay. Now the last three here are just three more examples. Another triangular prism, another rectangular prism, and another cylinder, but they're all done the same way. So for this one, my base is a triangle, so it'll be 1/2 base times height. Now if I look at this triangle here, the base is 8, and the height is 8.5. This right here, we don't need. That 9 feet, we don't need that at all. Okay, that has nothing to do with the problem. So we just need the 8 is my length of this triangle base, and this 8.5 is going to be my height. And that gives me 34 for capital B. And then remember, your height of your prism is the distance between the two, so that's going to be 20. So my volume, capital B times H, is going to be 34 times 20, which is 680 cubic feet. Here's another rectangular prism. You could call it a square prism if you wanted, because the one base is a square. Okay. But this time I think I'll pick the left and the right to be my bases, just to do something different, but you can always pick the top and the bottom if you want. But I'm going to pick the left and the right. So capital B is going to be 30 by 4, so it's going to be 120. And then height is the distance between those two, so that distance is going to be 30. So volume, capital B times H, 120 times 30, gives you 3,600 cubic millimeters. And again, since this is a rectangular prism, you could have just taken length times width times height and gotten the 3,600. So just be aware of that. Anytime you have a box, you can do that. And our last one here, our cylinder. So My base is a circle, pi r squared. So this time it gives me the radius. So pi times 4 squared, and again I used calculator pi, so I got 50.26548, and so on. My height is the distance between the two, and even though they put the height here in the middle, it's still what it's measuring. It's still the distance between this top circle and this bottom circle. So it's still my height. So when I multiply those two together, .26548 times 9, I get that my volume is about 452.4 cubic meters. Now remember, these formulas will be given to you. You don't have to memorize any of them. You just need to know what they mean. So remember, capital B is the area of one of the bases, and h, the height of a prism, is the distance between those two bases. If you have any questions or need any clarification, all you have to do is ask.